All right, hour two, Sean Hannity Show this Friday, 800-941-SEAN if you want to be a part of the program. You know, we're going to do a special edition of Hannity tonight on the threat that is China and how real and what a clear and present danger this is. It is going to be so comprehensive that I think it will shock you because, and then we got this president that doesn't know what day of the week it is and making a total, complete fool of himself in Ireland, visiting castles, and he can't even answer children's questions. But that is beyond the point. In a second, I'm going to introduce to you Congressman Tom Tiffany. He is from the great state of Wisconsin, and he's on the House Judiciary Committee. And anyway, in March, he asked the question about this dual system of justice that we keep talking about, and that is, you know, do we have equal justice under the law? I don't believe we do. Do we have equal application of our laws? I do not believe we do right now in America. That's sad. Is the FBI politicized? I believe it is, and whistleblowers are confirming that for us. Do I believe the DOJ is weaponized? Yes, I do. Is this a danger to this great republic and our Constitution? It is a clear and present danger in and of itself. And we may need a new FBI. The FBI used to be the world's premier law enforcement agency. They are not anymore. They have involved themselves in 4 consecutive elections in one way or another. But anyway, so Congressman Tiffany sparked outrage from Democrats yesterday when he used a hearing. You know, this happened to be with the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives to ask the question we have been asking for a long time, and that is why Hunter Biden has not been charged with lying on his gun application. Now, you know, a lot of people have brought up the fact that if I ever did that, and I would never advise any of you to, but I guarantee you that I would be arrested, fingerprinted, there'd be a mug shot, there'd be a lot of happy liberals, and I'd be in an orange jumpsuit. And this is a fair question, and a relevant question. Anyway, here's Tom Tiffany asking why Hunter has not been prosecuted for lying on this form.
Wilcox, if a person lies on Form 4473 and is a user of unlawful drugs, you can get between 5 to 10 years for that. Is that correct? Is that my understanding?
No, I believe Congress changed the sentence last Congress.
What is that sentence now?
Up to 15.
Up to 15 years. Why hasn't Hunter Biden been prosecuted for the crime that he committed?
I'm not aware of the facts of that case and can't comment on it.
Okay, who do we talk to see why this case is not being prosecuted? I mean, he said very clearly in his book that he used drugs, he had at least a gun.
Point of order, Mr. Chairman.
State your point of order.
Totally irrelevant and not germane to this proceeding.
Sir, he's got his 5 minutes. Go ahead, continue.
Okay, so I understand why you do not want Mr. Wilcox to answer that question. It's very clear why you don't want, because there's a dual system of justice in America. That's what's going on right now, and everybody's talking about it across America. There's 2 standards of justice that are going on.
Anyway, 2 standards of justice, a dual justice system, unequal justice under the law. You know, this is all real and this is all happening. Hillary Clinton, her dirty dossier used unverifiable, used people lying before a FISA court 4 separate occasions saying it's verified. None of it was true. It's totally been debunked, deleting 33,000 subpoenaed emails with something nobody had ever heard of, Bleach Pit, destroying devices with hammers, and removing SIM cards and top secret classified information that she had, with no ability to declassify. And it just never ends. And then you go, to the whole 2020 election. The FBI had Hunter Biden's laptop in December of 2019. They could have corroborated whether that was real or fake or phony in probably 48, 72 hours. And I'm giving them a lot of extra time. They employ some of the smartest computer expert geniuses in the entire world, and yet they never did it. And then FBI agents in the lead up to the 2020 presidential election are out there and warning big tech companies with all that power and all that influence, warning them that they may be victims of a misinformation campaign. And Yoel Roth, the Twitter integrity site leader, at the time, testifying in the case of Missouri, that in fact, they mentioned specifically the misinformation may be about Hunter and it may be about Joe. And sure enough, but they knew the laptop existed. They also knew that Rudy Giuliani, Donald Trump's attorney, had a copy of it. So they knew it was coming out. Well, they're taking cinder blocks and they're putting it on the scales of an election. And that clearly had a big impact on people voting in 2020. Well, that does not instill confidence in our election system. That does not instill integrity in our system. Just the opposite. Anyway, Congressman Tom Tiffany from Wisconsin is with us. Sir, how are you?
I'm good, Sean. Good to join you today.
This is not something that is a difficult decision for a prosecutor. This does not involve prosecutorial discretion. If you lie on a gun application form, liberals are the one that want to restrict our gun rights. I think one of the main things we need is to enforce laws against criminals getting guns. And here you have the case of a guy that we have now evidence of being a crack addict. He's an admitted crack addict at the time and drug user at the time, involved with hookers at the time. To my understanding, that's illegal too. And yet he lies on that gun application. That gun eventually gets put in a dumpster, found by, thankfully, a good Samaritan that handed it over to the police. They trace it back to Hunter Biden. And then we find out there was Secret Service involvement in some capacity, and we've never gotten a full answer on that.
Yeah, Sean. So I talk to audiences all the time back home about lawlessness in America. And don't you think that this is part of the problem in America at this point, when people who tend to be law-abiding may have some thoughts that I should do something criminal, but, you know, they continue to be law-abiding. At some point, when do they say, you know what, if the elites are able to get away with this, if the well-connected, like the son of the president, is able to get away with this, why in the hell am I following the law? I mean, it's a slippery slope. Don't you agree?
I do agree. And I think this is what's happening with our justice system. I mean, you know, there's not even a liberal Democratic lawyer that I know in New York that thinks that Alvin Bragg that would ever have charged any other person but Donald Trump with this ridiculous 34 count indictment that doesn't even cite what the underlying crime is. And yet they do that because it's a political persecution, not a prosecution.
That's exactly right. It's a political prosecution born out of political calculation.
That's very well said. All right. So what's the antidote? What's the answer?
Well, you know, Sean, I still believe that we are in the discovery phase for the people of the United States of America, going all the way back to 2016 when they were exposed to the terms that the swamp, let's secure the border, that then candidate Trump elevated as an issue for the American people so they understood what was going on there. I still think we're in the exploratory phase for the American people, showing how deep and wide the swamp is. And that's why we're going to New York City with the Judiciary Committee soon here. Is we want.
Well, you're going Monday, I know, because Jim Jordan, the chairman of your committee, is going to be on my TV show that night.
Oh, that's terrific. But what I want to find out is, what are those federal dollars being used for? What are our tax dollars being used for that are going to the Manhattan District Attorney's Office? I want to know what it's going for, because it's obvious it's not going to fight. It's not going to fight major crimes.
Congressman, he campaigned on a promise to get one man, Donald Trump, to go after one organization, the Trump organization, one family, the Trump family. The same with the Attorney General of New York. The same exact thing. And they both have fulfilled their campaign promises. Now, all of that's going on. You raised the question of Hunter. Anyway, and, you know, I see Hunter's, going to visit castles in Ireland as his father embarrasses himself. And Hunter was even forced to rescue his dad that couldn't even answer a child's, simple question because he was so dazed and confused. But we also learned today that Hunter Biden's lawyer met with Joe Biden after learning that Hunter Biden had been subpoenaed. This was in March of 2016. This is around the time that Joe Biden is lying that he never had a conversation with his son about his foreign business dealings. We know that, Joe Biden is honoring and praising his son in Ireland. If Donald Trump, with one of his kids, got in trouble and had a subpoena and the lawyer went to meet with the father, then if Donald Trump was president, what would the reaction be? It would be very differently than what we're getting now. That I can tell you.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. And that's what I allude to, is the discovery phase continues for the American people. And the question is, when is a prosecutor, someone or a judge who has a lick of integrity, when are they going to say, you know what, we got to do our jobs here? It doesn't matter whether this person's Republican or Democrat. We're going to follow the law, and follow the law in regards to the elite, the well-connected, like the Biden family, and as you said at the top of this segment, going all the way back to Hillary Clinton and BleachBit computers.
Yeah, I think it's well said. Anyway, Congressman, we really appreciate your call, your work. Thank you for all the work you're doing on the Judiciary Committee and getting to the bottom of the question. Is the Department of Justice being weaponized? Is there a dual justice system? And is the FBI politicized? And do we maybe need a new organization to replace it? I think that those are all fair questions. Anyway, sir, appreciate you being with us. Good luck. Be safe in New York. I advise you to bring a lot of security with you.
Looking forward to visiting the Big Apple on Monday.
No, you shouldn't be. You should be. You're better off in Wisconsin. I'll promise you that.
Got to do our jobs, right, Sean?
Somebody's got to do it. I'm here, unfortunately. Anyway, appreciate it. Thank you so much. Quick break, right back. We'll continue. More of your calls coming up. 800-941-SEAN, our number if you want to be a part of the program. Let's get to our phones. 800-941-SEAN, our number. Dale in Idaho next. Sean Hannity Show. What's up, Dale? How are you?
I'm doing great. Hey, Sean. Hey, the Democrats are 100% positive they're going to win the next elections. Democrats are playing long ball. They got Joe playing dodgeball. There's no way Biden is running for re-election. He might think he is, but when the Democrat convention rolls around, he's going to be in the basement, and Dr. Jill's going to be wearing her scrubs, feeding him pudding pops, and we'll have wasted months.
You may be right, but I'll tell you one person who doesn't believe that, and listen, I've done debates with James Carville a number of times. I actually like James Carville. I get along with James Carville. He's not a dumb guy. He is warning Democrats of a great danger looming out there, and that is sinking support with African Americans and minorities. I don't think he's saying it as a deflection. I think he means it. I know him well enough to believe that he means it. So I'm not so sure Democrats think this is a slam dunk. I wouldn't. And by the way, who's going to replace him? Kamala? Gavin Newsom?
Matters. I don't think it matters who they're going to replace it. I think they're going to do. They think they've got it in the bag, and they're going to do whatever they have to do to get reelected. And whether you don't think that all the the 80 million votes that Biden got, they didn't make carbon copies of all those signatures. I'm sure they've done something, but when they decided to do the convention in Chicago, I thought about it. Why Chicago? They've got Illinois in the bag. But they're really doing it for Brock, and they're pulling it. He's the one pulling the strings. He's the puppet master. His museums in Chicago, his library, his nonprofit for profit.
I can't say for sure. I've never been able to verify who's really in charge. I can tell you one thing: it's not Joe, and that was on full display in Ireland all week. And it's a national embarrassment as China now is consolidating its power and now trying to reach their goal and their ambition of being the world's sole superpower. And they are acting every day. And Joe is just, while Rome burns, he's out visiting castles. Scary. These are very, very scary times in my view. Anyway, appreciate the call, my friend. God bless you. 800-941-SEAN is our number. We'll get to your calls. John Rich coming up on this Anheuser-Busch Bud Light issue in a little bit.
Exposing government waste and abuse of your liberties every day. Sean Hannity is on right now.
25 to the top of the hour. We'll get to your calls here in a second. Joe Scarborough, and we used to like Joe. Remember when we were friends with Joe Scarborough, when Joe was a Republican and a conservative and representing, the Panhandle in Florida, Linda? I mean, I'll never forget.
I remember him doing that. I just don't remember liking him, but I remember when he was a Republican.
Okay, so anyway, I remember a phone call he gave to me, and I remember circling around in a pool in my backyard again and again and again. He was at the top of his lungs, talking with incredible urgency about how Democrats were stealing the presidential election in 2000 from George W. Bush. I mean, he's now a very different person. He won't admit it, but his political views have changed. And, so anyway, there's a cut of him gushing over Biden's Ireland trip. Let me play this for you, and I'll follow it with his rambling speeches in Dublin, and then the idiocy of the statement that he makes that the single existential threat to the world being climate change. Not China, climate change. Listen.
I'm telling you, it has been just such a joyful trip for Joe Biden and for the people of Ireland. And you can see that in the headlines. I know back in the States, a lot of people focusing on a few gaffes. They're not focusing on that in Ireland. You see here a very Irish welcome for President Biden. It just had a joyous welcome.
Our history reminds us, our history, ours, yours and mine, reminds us of the responsibilities we have to the president. This should be the president. Our courage, our creativity, our loyalty, our tenacity, and our loyalty again. The only thing I bring to this career after my aged, as you can see, how old I am, was a little bit of wisdom. I come to the job with more experience than any president in American history. Doesn't make me better or worse, but it gives me few excuses. I said, Pop, what do you worry about? He said, you're too much like that guy who led the revolution instead of the guy who was the prime minister. I said, he said, you got to be less like the military guy. They shot him. And I didn't play rugby except when I was out of law school, and I didn't play it very well. We played in a rugby club, but I did play American football and a few other sports, but I realized that, you guys are all nuts. The single existential threat to the world is climate change. We don't have a lot of time, and that's a fact. They're even recognizing, finally, everyone's recognizing America.
I mean, you just can't make this up. Doesn't matter how awful he does, they're going to defend Joe Biden and probably support him. All right, let's go to the free state of Florida. Check in with Arlene next on the Sean Hannity Show. Happy Friday, Arlene. Glad you called.
Thank you very much for taking my call today. I was really interested in hearing your opinion about the young man who leaked the documents. I don't believe it. I don't believe it was him.
Why don't you believe it was him?
When they first announced that there was a leak, I did not believe that they were going to even catch the guy based on the Supreme Court leak. And then they said they had an arrest. And I'm thinking to myself, what middle management lackey or person who's not towing the party line are they going to set up to take the fall for this? They didn't even go for a lackey. They went for somebody at the bottom rung of the ladder. Like they must feel so confident in their evil that they can just pick somebody from the bottom rung of the ladder to take the fall for this. I don't believe it. The gentleman was speaking.
Let's put that aside for a second. Who did it? I don't know. I just don't have any information to contradict what the government is saying on this. Do I always believe the government? Hell no. I never believe them. And, look at COVID. How many lies were we told? But what was revealed here is what really we need to pay attention to. Russia trained forces in Belarus on how to use tactical nuclear weapons. Why would he do that if there wasn't some backup plan to maybe use them? House Republicans are questioning why the media found the Pentagon leakers before the Biden administration did. I think that's an important question, too. Biden's answer was, there's nothing contemporaneous that I'm aware of that is of great consequence. How about the fact that this leak revealed that we had special forces on the ground in Ukraine? that we were sharing intelligence. Every country that was helping Ukraine with intelligence and other matters, now the Russians and the Chinese know about it. We learned one thing that was maybe good news, because I think he's evil, is that, Pentagon documents claim Putin has cancer. Evil people that kill innocent men, women, and children, I don't really care about them. They're not good people. Period. End of sentence. My prayers are not for Vladimir Putin. My prayers are for the people, the innocent people that were murdered by his forces in Ukraine and elsewhere around the world. But we have top secret documents detailing Biden's security arrangements in Ireland. That was found on a street in Belfast. A National Guardsman identified as you point out. Anyway, and he's arrested, and that's all fine and good. But, what else did we learn here? We learned that, everybody's plans, everybody's involvement in this. This is one of the worst leaks ever in the history of this country in terms of intelligence. Don't tell me that Donald Trump's, the raid at Mar-a-Lago is bigger than this, because it's not. So it's, we have now compromised the security of special forces, not only for our country, but for other countries. We have given away battle plans. Putin probably did not have this intelligence. Now he does. And we have basically, compromised every single country that was aiding and helping. But on the other hand, we exposed countries that were working against us and that have been duplicitous, like the UAE and Egypt and other countries that have been secretly working with our enemies.
Today they're saying that the young man had access. He had the capability of obtaining these documents. Yesterday, I listened to the gentleman from the Justice Department who was talking about the information, and they said who he was, what he did, and where he was from. And he said there'll be no more information, during the investigation. And today, we are hearing that he had access to the documents. That wasn't announced yesterday. I really recognize that every point that you just made is super valid about what's happening with that. But there's also a degree of disgusting operating and filthy evil politics happening in the United States right now. I don't believe that this was a mistake that a kid made. I believe that somebody thought that it would benefit them somehow. And that's how come. Look,
it's possible why this kid had access to any of this. If in fact it was him, I don't know. Could there be a deeper story behind this? I absolutely believe it's possible, but we don't have it. And I can only work with the facts as we know them. We're doing a deep dive. I'm working with my sources in the Pentagon to try and get more answers. I haven't gotten them as of yet, but people are looking hard at this. I promise you that. Arlene, thank you. You have a great weekend. All right. Appreciate it. Another free state, Texas. Kathy is next on this Friday on the Sean Hannity Show. Kathy, how are you? Glad you called.
Fine. Thank you for taking my call, Sean. I'm a little bit off point on what you're speaking about, but I'm looking for an update on the Global Pandemic Accord. Biden has said he would sign that. I sat down and I read it, and it's really, really, really bad, and it's kind of getting swept under the rug. Nobody's really covering it, and apparently the only reason that it didn't get passed last year was because 3 African nations stood up and said that they would not give over their sovereignty to the WHO. If Biden signs this, we're done, and I would like for it to be kept in the mainstream news, even if nothing's being done, just so people will be aware of what's being done to our country.
Well, I think we need to be aware of a lot of things that are being done to our country. For example, you're more aware of what illegal immigration is really all about down in Texas. You're feeling you're bearing the brunt of it. And now every state's bearing the brunt of it. In New York, they're estimating $5 to $10 million a day just to take care of Joe's illegal immigrants. And, that's an unfunded mandate. That's another tax on every New Yorker because they're going to have to pay the money to make up the shortfall. And it is, it's beyond dangerous to me on every level.
Well, we're seeing crime down here in Texas in these small towns, not just the big ones, like we haven't seen in years. So, yes, right. We're very aware the border is a tragedy.
Well, I think we have a lot of issues. I've never felt this concerned about our future, our kids' futures, our grandkids' futures. I'll put it that way.
The final hour of the Sean Hannity Show is up next. Hang on for Sean's Conservative Solutions.
All right, let's get back to our busy phones. All right, let's go to Christine is in Connecticut. Christine, hi, how are you? Welcome to the program.
Hi, Sean. I happen to be a conservative trans woman, and I'm just horrified on what happened to Riley.
By the way, you've called this show before, haven't you?
Yes, I also was in attendance here on January 6th when you had resumed your live audience, and I caught one of the footballs you threw.
I'm glad you caught it. Well, thank you for calling and checking in. How are you doing?
I'm doing okay. I'm at my wit's end with these trans radical activists in the Antifa crowd pushing this gender ideology movement. You know, Riley Gaines has every right to speak. We have to realize everyone has a right to speak. This isn't Russia yet.
Now, you're saying this as a trans woman.
Yes.
You know what the big issue for me is, and I think I'm probably speaking for a big part of this audience, and I've had this conversation with Caitlyn Jenner both on and off the air. Do I understand it? And I brought this question up to Caitlyn, and she said, I would not expect you to understand it. And I said, well, why do you say that? It's because you're not living it. If you were living it, you'd understand it. If you don't live it, you know, I get that people don't understand. I said, okay. But I also think most people don't care in the sense that if that's what you want to do, you are an adult and you have made a decision for your life that you're comfortable with, that makes you happy, then you have every right to make that decision. I also believe in freedom. That is your choice to make that decision. And I only wish you the best. Now, for these people that feel that they can indoctrinate our children, I don't even want them talking about heterosexual sex. I don't want them I want them to educate our kids. Values need to be instilled by parents. Now, if they feel a need that there are kids whose parents can't talk to them about these sensitive topics, which I think is crazy, parents, you got to lighten up. I mean, every person in the world got here because their parents had sex, period, end of sentence, you know, or artificial insemination. I got to make exceptions for that. But you get my point. But the reality is, okay, if they want to have opt-in after school programs that deal with, transgender, gender identity, heterosexual sex, homosexual sex, I don't care. As long as the parents see the curriculum, they can opt in. If my kids were in school, I'd never opt them into that. That's my job. I'm a parent. And the idea that people think they can, you know, circumvent parental authority and parental values, to me, is beyond offensive. And it's wrong, and it's frankly immoral in my view. What do you think?
When I go to the Connecticut State Board of Education needing to testify against social emotional learning, which is sex and gender in school, and the way you can medicate minor age kids without parental knowledge and consent, they don't treat me well, just put it that way. And when I wrote some of our elected leaders in Connecticut to change the rules to ban trans females from high school sports, which is the Connecticut Interscholastic Athletic Conference, I was ignored. And then I wrote someone at the CIAC myself, and I still haven't heard back, and we're going on a month.
Well, I'll give you this little tidbit. I don't know if you know this, but Caitlyn just started a PAC. I think you're in full agreement with her, and maybe you can work with her. I've known Caitlyn forever, and she's a wonderful person. I knew her as Bruce. I know her as Caitlyn, and you know our friendship hasn't changed one bit. And she agrees completely with you. She agrees about Riley Gaines as you do. She agrees you can't have biological men playing women's sports, and we should not be indoctrinating kids. That's it. Pretty simple stuff. But anyway, I would urge you to get in touch with that PAC and maybe join forces, because I think together you'll get a lot more done. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
All right.
Hey,
well, anyway,
for just trying to put common sense into this, Sean.
Yeah. Do you agree with me? Most people are pretty libertarian in terms of what adults choose to do with their lives. Are you experiencing any discrimination of any kind?
I get treated well. In fact, that night we were running late to your show, and I had to use the women's restroom. No one says a word because I take the time. I bring it upon myself to present well enough that people hear women on my voice and see women. I don't assume it I have a problem with these people that quote, I identify as a woman, and they don't change their voice. They look manly and they expect to have access to women's spaces, and they complain about it. That's so wrong.
Yeah. Well, we appreciate you calling in. Check in with us regularly. And you're always welcome to call into the show, okay?
Thank you, Sean.
I hope you have a good time at the TV show?
Yes, I look forward. Hopefully we'll go again soon.
Okay, well, don't be shy. Introduce yourself. It's pretty raucous. The crowd in the breaks, we're throwing footballs around with people fighting over them. It's hilarious. You got to watch and see it. Anyway, 800-941-SEAN on number if you want to be a part of the program. John Rich at the top of the hour. A special Hannity investigation, the real clear present danger that is China. As Joe is, watching castles and visiting castles, President Xi is consolidating power to become the world's sole superpower. And it's happening before our eyes. Anyway, that's tonight at 9 on Fox. For our audience shows, go to Hannity.com. Tickets are free.